Her broken chains were not the start of freedom, but the beginning of a more dangerous captivity. When she escaped the hell of the slave market, she thought the tribe she took refuge with would save her. But fate had left her at the mercy of the tribe's most feared warrior, a man they called Silent Death, whose own soul was ravaged by storms. He saw her as a burden, a harbinger of trouble, but there was something he didn't know. This hunted woman carried the key not only to her own life, but also to the warrior's shattered soul. Amara's life used to pass peacefully in her village by the river, weaving fishing nets and listening to the stories of the stars, until the flames that burned the sky and the men who hunted people arrived. Her village was plundered, her family massacred, and she was put in chains and dragged hundreds of miles to a slave market. There, she saw the darkest side of humanity, a place where people were bought and sold like cattle, where hope died anew every day. However, in Amara's soul, there was an unbreakable will inherited from her ancestors. For weeks she observed, she waited, and finally, during the chaos of a sudden sandstorm that hit the marketplace, she managed to escape. With the shouts of the traders and the barking of dogs ringing in her ears, she ran for days, hungry and thirsty. When her body gave up, she found herself on the border of an unknown forest, in the lands of a tribe she did not recognize. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was an imposing shadow, its face covered in war paint, watching her from between the trees. When she awoke, she was lying on a rough hide in the dim light of a hut. The imposing warrior she had seen before was standing over her. The man's name was Kazembe. He gave her water and food, but the expression in his eyes held not mercy, but a calculated coldness. Kazembe was the most feared warrior of the tribe. Years ago, he had lost his wife and child in a raid by a rival tribe, and since that day, he had closed his heart to the world, especially to strangers. They only brought trouble and death. He had understood that Amara was a fugitive, and this meant that the slave traders would soon come to these lands. In the man's eyes, Amara saw not a savior, but an executioner. She was only waiting to see when her sentence would be carried out. Kazembe brought Amara before the tribe's chief and the council of elders. He explained the situation. This woman was a fugitive, and the traders pursuing her threatened the peace of the tribe. Voices rose in the council. Many argued that the woman should be immediately cast out of the tribe's lands. The most vocal of this group was Jabari, Kazembe's rival and the chief's nephew. Jabari was tired of living in Kazembe's shadow and saw this situation as an opportunity to portray him as weak and irresponsible. "This woman is a curse," Jabari said. "To keep her among us is to invite a snake into our bed. Kazembe's mercy will be the end of us all." Kazembe felt no mercy, but when he looked at Amara's exhausted face, he saw the helplessness of his wife in her final moments. To send her to her death in this state felt like a betrayal of his own past. "I found her." Kazembe's icy voice cut through all the noise in the council. "She is my responsibility. If the traitors come, I will face them." This was a stunning gamble. Kazembe had tied his own honor to the life of this foreign woman. The chief was caught between his two powerful warriors. Finally, he found a middle ground. Amara could stay for now, but at the slightest trouble, Kazembe would be held responsible, and both would be subject to the tribe's justice. Amara was no longer a guest, but the fuse of a bomb ready to explode. Kazembe gave her the most isolated hut and left her alone with a single command: "Stay here, and don't cause me any trouble." Meanwhile, Jabari had already begun his intrigues to turn the situation to his advantage. In the dark of night, he set one of the tribe's corn storages on fire. When the flames lit up the sky, the villagers rushed out in a panic. Jabari began to whisper among the crowd, "You see? The spirits have been angry since the foreigner arrived. This is only the beginning." The seeds of suspicion were sown, and all eyes turned to the two people they saw as responsible for this disaster: Amara and the fearsome warrior who protected her, Kazembe. The fire had destroyed a significant portion of the tribe's winter provisions. Jabari's plan was working. The people's anger towards Amara and therefore towards Kazembe was growing. Kazembe knew the fire was no accident, but he had no proof. As the pressure on him mounted, he became even harsher and more distant with Amara. This woman, unwittingly, was orchestrating his downfall. Amara, in her desperation, did not know what to do. She was unwanted in this tribe, and outside, traitors were hunting her. She was trapped between two hells. However, Amara was not just a survivor, she was a craftswoman. In her own village, she was known for weaving waterproof and fire-resistant baskets and containers from river plants. Without speaking to anyone, she went into the forest for days and gathered a special type of vine known only to her tribe. Everyone thought she was trying to escape or had gone mad. But with the vines she collected, Amara began to weave incredibly sturdy and large new storage containers to replace the burned granary. The women of the tribe watched in amazement at this strange and unprecedented technique. Meanwhile, Jabari was preparing to deliver his final blow. He secretly sent a messenger to the slave traders. He told them he knew the location of the woman they were looking for, and in return, offered to help them eliminate Kazembe. It was the perfect plan to get rid of his rival within the tribe and become a hero for getting rid of the trouble. The slave traders gladly accepted this unexpected alliance. They began to wait for the full moon to launch their raid. When Amara finished the giant containers, the people of the tribe gathered around her. These containers were much better than what they had lost. Even the chief was impressed by Amara's unexpected skill. Just then, a young scout of Kazembe's spotted the foreigners, the slave traders, camped deep in the forest. When the news reached the village, panic ensued. Jabari immediately stepped forward. "The time has come," he shouted. "We will die because of this woman. Let us hand her over to the traders at once so our tribe may be saved." The crowd, incited by Jabari's words, moved towards Amara. Kazembe stepped between Amara and the angry mob with his spear. "To touch her," he said, "you will have to get through me first." The tribe was on the brink of a civil war, and outside in the darkness of the forest, the real enemy was silently approaching. Kazembe's challenge hung in the air. The tribe was split in two, with an angry mob incited by Jabari on one side and an honorable warrior standing alone on the other. Just then, a scream from the depths of the forest instantly froze this internal conflict. Traitors. The slave traders, relying on Jabari's betrayal, had not waited for the full moon, but had infiltrated through a secret path to the village and killed the first sentry. Panic suppressed the anger. As women and children screamed and fled to their huts, the warriors grabbed their spears. "Every man for himself," Jabari shouted, gathering his own men around him, but instead of fighting, he began to retreat towards the most fortified part of the village. His plan was clear: to let Kazembe face the first and largest wave of the traders alone, and then, after he was weakened, either emerge as a hero or flee if the village fell. Amara instantly saw through this cowardly betrayal. Kazembe, however, did not hesitate. He roared at Amara, "Hide behind those baskets," and ran to the front, alone, to meet the 15 ruthless slave traders who were approaching. Kazembe fought like a storm. Every spear thrust, every shield block was a dance of death. But he was alone. He took down 3 traders, but a 4th managed to wound him from the side. As he fell to his knees, the leader of the traders walked towards him with a triumphant laugh. Just then, something unexpected happened. Amara, instead of hiding, toppled the giant fire-resistant containers she had woven, creating a barricade between the traders and Kazembe. Then, she shouted to the women and old men, "Bring the water skins! Wet the baskets!" This unexpected and organized defense momentarily surprised and slowed down the traders. Thanks to these few seconds, Kazembe was able to get back on his feet. But Amara's real move was yet to come. Her eyes were locked on the non-fighting Jabari and his men. She grabbed a torch and ran towards the storage hut where Jabari had retreated, where the tribe's most valuable ivory and provisions were kept. "You will pay the price for your betrayal, Jabari," she screamed. "Either you fight or the future of this tribe turns to ash with you." Amara's bluff was like a war cry. Jabari knew that if the tribe's wealth went up in flames, he would be forever branded a coward and a traitor in the eyes of his people. Cursing, he was forced to shout, "Fight!" With his men joining the battle, the tide instantly turned. Kazembe was no longer alone. The united strength of the tribe began to push back the slave traders. The battle culminated in the center of the village with a confrontation between two leaders, Kazembe and the ruthless leader of the slave traders. Their fight was like the deadly dance of two panthers. Knives and spears glinted in the darkness of the night. Just as the traitor was about to overpower the wounded Kazembe, one final act of betrayal crossed Jabari's mind. From behind, he stealthily threw a spear towards Kazembe. His aim was to eliminate both his rival and his accomplice at the same time. But Amara was watching his every move. Her scream, "Kazembe," alerted the warrior at the last second. Kazembe dodged aside. The spear pierced the traitor's chest. The dying traitor, with his last breath, pointed at Jabari. He betrayed us," he said. All the warriors of the tribe who were present at that moment had heard the traitor's last words and seen Jabari's spear throw at their own hero. The betrayal was no longer a whisper, but a truth written in blood. The battle was over. The traitors were either dead or had fled, but the village fell silent. All eyes turned to Jabari, who had betrayed his own people. Even his own men pointed their spears at him. He had nowhere to run. As Kazembe stood, wounded, Amara ran to his side. While she checked his wounds, Kazembe took her hand. "You," he said, breathless, "saved not only my life but the life of the entire tribe." In that moment, Amara saw in his eyes not the ghost of his dead wife, but only herself. That heart, which had been frozen for years, had begun to beat again with the fire of this escaped slave. Crying, Amara rested her head on his wounded shoulder. She had escaped from the slave market, but she had found her true freedom in the heart of this feared warrior. The next day, the tribal council convened. Jabari's trial was brief. There were many witnesses to his betrayal. The chief turned to Kazembe and Amara. "His fate is in your hands," he said. Everyone wanted blood, but Amara stood up. "To kill him," she said, "does not make us better than him. Sell him to the men he followed, to the slave traders. Let him pay the price for his own betrayal every day he lives." This was a punishment heavier than death, and the tribe accepted this wise decision with respect. That day, the chief announced another decision before his people. "The spirits have shown us that strength lies not only in the spear, but in intelligence and loyalty. Amara, though not of our blood, is now one of our spirit. She is a mother and a protector of this tribe." The tribe celebrated these words with cries of joy. Amara was no longer a refugee, but a hero. In the evening, Kazembe and Amara were sitting on the hill outside the village, under the stars. Kazembe's wounds had been dressed. He broke the silence. "They used to call me Silent Death," he said, "because when my wife and child died, everything inside me died with them. But you came and broke that silence. You became the sound of my life, Amara." Amara took his hand. "I too escaped as a slave," she whispered, "but my real captivity was my loneliness. You broke my chains, Kazembe." That night, two wounded and lonely souls found a home in each other's hearts. Years later, under the leadership of Kazembe and Amara, the tribe had become the most respected community in the region, famous for both its strength and its intelligence. Amara's waterproof baskets had become the tribe's most important trade good. They had their own children who inherited their father's courage and their mother's intelligence. One day, their young daughter asked her mother how she had escaped from the slave market. Amara looked at Kazembe, who was sitting beside her, and smiled. "I didn't escape," she said. "I just ran towards the home that was waiting for me."